Alright, Rabbid, Raccoon, midnight half marathon. I finished second overall in like an hour, 52 minutes. Not sure the exact time. They do not have the results up yet online. I'm sitting in my vehicle right now in the parking lot. It's 3:10 a.m. Yeah, so I finished a little over an hour ago now. About to take a nap before I head home. I don't know. So I finished second in both half marathons, and I took the 5K, so I'm happy with that. Just a little tired now. I could definitely run some more. My legs feel fresh. It just mentally, it's bedtime. 3:10 a.m. You know, I'm not usually up at 3:10 a.m. anymore. Anyway, I'm definitely behind on nutrition. I didn't really drink much again on this half marathon. Probably less than I did this morning, but it was cooler out. Might have only drank about 12 ounces, 10, 12 ounces total. Maybe 15 at the very, very most. Because both my 20-ounce bottles were pretty much at about halfway full. Or a little bit more. I took a vest. Before I get to the actual race details, I'll just get into some other shit. Wearing my hydration vest this evening instead of my belt, which was, I guess, a mistake looking back at it, but it was supposed to rain. It's actually raining now. It started raining about a half an hour ago now. I wasn't sure what time the rain was actually going to come, and I didn't want to be out there if it started raining and pouring. So I wanted to have some gear on me, like a rain jacket and some gloves, if I did get caught in the rain. So that's why I wore my vest. Otherwise, I would have worn my belt, which I preferred to have taken, but again, not knowing what was going to happen, I went with the vest, and that was sort of a mistake because it definitely made me hotter. Obviously, I had to wear a shirt with the vest. But whatever, I still did a good job. But the belt would have definitely helped me stay cooler and run faster. I don't know, just one of the mistakes. But I did take noon caffeinated in the one bottle, water in the other. I didn't wear, so I did go sleeveless, but I still wore a shirt. Wore the shoes I wore this morning, but I dried them out at home when I went home, so that wasn't an issue. The course was definitely a lot sloppier this evening. I don't even know, exponentially it was. Not that it wasn't runnable, but it was definitely a lot sloppier in spots and slicker in spots. The guy who won this morning won this afternoon or evening, midnight, whatever. I told him it's not fair because he was from Colorado and he trains in elevation. So I was like, it's not fair to come to PA where it's probably like 7,000 feet less elevation wise. I don't know the exact numbers, but we'll just throw that out there. But no, he's a good guy. I talked to him for a while. I did wear so with my vest that I wore, my hydration vest, I wore a headlamp, but I also wore a waist lamp belt, my Ultra Spire, just the light belt. I didn't take the waist belt. And in fact, probably about mile 10. Well, actually, the creek crossing, it started to fade a little bit. I don't know if it got wet or what, or the battery just died. But I know after the creek crossing it got dim and then it went out. Definitely the last 3 miles it was definitely out. So it just might have been the battery. I don't know how long that battery lasts because it's not the Ultra Spire battery, but luckily I had my spare headlamp in my pack, so I just put that around my wrist and hand and used that as a secondary light because I did want to double up running at night just so I could see the ground a lot better, like the little trip hazards and stuff like that. Just to illuminate stuff more to be able to see. So that was strategic as well. Yeah, so the guy who won this morning, won this evening. I did have an 8-minute lead over third place finishing. So he came in about 2 hours, which was what my Pace Pro was. I set a Pace Pro this afternoon for 2 hours flat. Yeah, so that's what I was shooting for, because I know last year that would have put me in a top 3 position. Even actually, I might have won the race last year. So I set a Pace Pro for 2 hours. I figured I was going to run slower than I did this afternoon, and I did a 141 or 142 this afternoon. So I figured my legs probably wouldn't have been as fresh, and just running at night I was going to be slower, so I just added on a minute, so like a 9-minute flat pace, which would have gave me like the 2 hour mark. I was happy with that. Obviously I was 8 minutes under, so I pretty much ran like an 8.5 pace for the majority of the race. A lot of that time was banked in the first 4 miles, where it's pretty easy, like rail trail and stuff like that, before you get to like mile 5 or 6, where it could be more technical and switchbacky and hilly. Because I know at one point I had like 10 and a half under my Pace Pro, probably about 5 miles in, and I was like, oh well, shit, if I can even maintain this, it'll put me way under. But obviously I slowed down the second half of the race. Trying to think. Third place, yeah, so first just took off. I wasn't gonna catch. Third place was in front of me for a while, maybe about a mile. Then I caught him. Then I passed him somewhere around the lake or reservoir, whatever it is, the first body of water. And through the aid station. I just went right through the aid station. Then probably around mile 3-ish, like right after the downhill, after the aid station, because you go uphill after the first aid station, and then that downhill, he caught up to me, drafted me for a little bit, and I was like, oh, don't you dare draft me, because he stayed behind me for probably 3/10 or 4/10. Then he finally went around. I was like, oh God, I was like, yeah, I hope he doesn't draft. But then I passed him back up, and then he never got in front of me again, and I just slowly gapped him more and more through the woods. And I know it was only maybe a minute behind me around mile 5 when we get off the dirt gravel trail, and the first sharp right turn to like the actual single track yeah, I knew he was only like a minute behind it. Even for like the next mile or so, I knew he was a minute behind-ish. Not any farther really than that, maybe a minute and a half, I don't know. Then after that, it was just too hard to see like behind you. Well, maybe not. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe around 6 or 7 you could still see him on like a long switchback or two. I did glance and saw him. So I knew he was still back there, but I also knew 4th was nowhere in sight, so I definitely had a couple minutes on 4th at the time. So I wasn't really stressing during the race at all. I felt pretty good, and I was running pretty good, comfortably. Again, since I was shooting for 2 hours, which was like a 9-minute pace, I just got to run pretty comfortably, because I figured if I ran anything under the 9-minute pace overall, I was going to burn up. So I was just trying to stay within myself. And if I could take a top 3, I was going to take it. But otherwise, I was just going to pull back. Or if my legs felt like shit, or if I got tired, I was just going to be able to pull back. Or if it rained, you know, same thing, pull back and just take it easy and not get hurt. So I guess that was strategy. Trying to think here. Yeah, I did, like everybody else was passing the 100Ks, 100 milers and stuff like that. I stayed in the grass and I tried to go around. Some people stepped off, but I tried to do the stepping off myself. I don't know. I do know any of the little declines and stuff today, this evening, they were slick. So I did try to stay on the edges even if I wasn't passing anybody, just to get the leaf and the leaf traction. Because if you ran down the middle, like the actual path, it was slick. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to, you know, slip on a downhill and get hurt when I could run on the side a little bit and get traction and run faster. So that's what I did. Trying to think here. Yeah, just basically just ran comfortably. I did worry that he was going to, third or fourth was going to catch up to me at some point. I don't want to say I was taking it easy, but I just felt like the comfortable pace that I was running at was catchable, slash beatable. So I did worry about that, but who knows? Did see a bunch of my friends out on the course and even finishing. Let me see. So when we came back into the aid station the second time, it was like almost blocked off just from like people standing around and sitting around. And I was just like, what the fuck is this? I was like, you got to give like a lane, but whatever. I blew through that. And this time, since I knew where the how to get to the creek crossing, I went down. And when I got to the creek crossing, I looked back and I didn't see third's light coming. So I knew I had a solid minute or two there. So I dipped my head again in the creek because I was hot. I was hot all race, just from having to wear a shirt and vest. And then like my jacket just like pushing against my back. That sucked. Yeah, so I splashed water on myself and I definitely felt immediately better there. And I power walked that hill because it was just a sloppy mess the whole way up that incline. So there's really no point in me trying to turn and burn up it. And I didn't see third coming up behind me at that point at all, or his light at all. So I knew I was pretty safe. In fact, there wasn't anybody even on that hill, so if there was a light, I knew it was him coming. And when I say I could see his light, the reason why I would have been able to differentiate his light from everybody else's is because he would have actually been running and slash jogging compared to everybody else who at the time I was passing was like power walking or whatever. So if anybody was like bouncing around behind me, you'd be able to tell if a light was bouncing around behind you that it was going to be him or another person coming up on me. So that's how I judged that. Then every little chance I got, I did power walk like some of the steeper inclines, but then like the flatter or the downhills, I tried to run as hard as I could. And then the one flat part, around 10 and a half or 11, like after my light went out and got my other one out, I turned it on a little bit more, but I sort of knew then that I had second in the bag, but I didn't want to let up too much just in case, because you don't know what's coming behind you. I'm trying to think other than that, but I would say after 10.5/11, it got really sloppy. And a couple other uphills, it just got like a sloppy mess. So even though I wanted to try a little bit harder than I did, just your footing and just the muddiness, I knew better, and just to take it easy, because there was no point in trying to blast through that and get hurt, or slip in the mud and just ruin your race, twist an ankle, something like that. So I knew better. I'm a smarter racer than that. So I just power walked up it. Still passing people. Of course, they're 50 plus miles in at that point, and I'm just running a half so I can go faster. I surprisingly took that Mountain Doom this last descent pretty quickly. It wasn't too slick at all. I don't know. Really not much to say at the moment. Could have did a little better. Obviously, if it was light out, I would have knocked a couple minutes off, unless it was really hot out. But I think being dark and it being a little bit cooler, not cold, but just, I don't even know if you want to call it brisk, but it was definitely 10-15 degrees cooler than it was this morning, and no sun beating down on you allowed me to run a lot easier with less effort, just because I wasn't stressing out from the heat. So that was kind of, especially when you got on top of some of the hills, like the inclines, you could definitely feel like the temperature a little bit more in your favor. And it just cooled me off a little bit. I don't know. I'll probably give more in my whole weekend wrap up. But it was nice to see some of my friends finish their 100Ks and stuff like that. Proud of them all. And just see other people out on the course, like on their last lap or two, the hundreds. So that was kind of cool. I don't know. I guess overall for the half, I'm happy. I finished second. I mean, I would obviously would have liked to have won, but competition was better, and I mean, coming in, if you would have told me I would have finished second for the midnight half, I would have taken it. Same with the morning half, I would have taken it. Just running like a 152 tonight, when I was shooting for a 2 hour, I can't complain. Like I said, I could have ran faster, and I could have been in the 140s, if I really wanted to turn and burn. But was it worth it? No. Would have made a difference? No. There was no point in taking any risks when I didn't have to. If I had to take the risk, or if I was getting pushed, definitely would have. But yeah, I don't know. So other than it being a little bit muddy, I have no complaints. Except I did forget my stupid towel in the car. I forgot to put it in my book bag, so I didn't get to shower inside afterwards. I could go in there now, but I don't really feel like it. I'm just gonna wait till I get home anyhow and shower. Pretty good. That would be my complaint, is I forgot my towel. Instead of walking the extra 100 yards out to get it, I just said the hell with it and just threw on clothes. Or my light going out, my waist light going out, so I have to check that and experiment with that. So whatever, we're just gonna wrap it up now.